This is his wife, and you know, this is very unusual composition, having her in profile, which is a side view, as you can see. You know what a profile is. She could have looked this way, or she could have looked in that direction. That was unusual back then. Most portraits were done facing forward, but he decided to do something a little different and have her face in profile. He's dressed her up as the Queen of Springtime. So her clothing looks like something from ancient Rome or ancient Greece when they worshipped all those gods. And what blooms in the springtime after a long cold winter? Flowers, of course. And so we have flowers in her apron, we have flower buds in her, flower buds are the flowers before they open, in her hand, and a costume that looks like it came from ancient Rome or Greece, that she's supposed to, although the hat doesn't look very Greek or Roman, but her clothing does. And the other thing that doesn't look very Greek or Roman is her very expensive, huge pearl necklace. That would have come by ship from some faraway place, and he bought them for his wife. Those would be very expensive today. If you bought pearls that size today, you'd be spending thousands of dollars for pearls that size. So you can see there's the word realistic detail. His paintings were full of it. That's why his paintings look so often like photographs. If you go to Amsterdam today, you can actually visit his home. Is it turned into a museum? Frankly, I was there years ago, but I don't remember a thing. I just remember going into the house. I don't think they had it as well organized and filled with all of the stuff that they have now. Because I have seen photographs and I'm thinking, I never saw that, I never saw that. I think they really have improved it. They really have made it look like it did when Rembrandt was living there 400 years ago. This would have been a very fancy, nice home for the time. And this was his house, and he filled it with beautiful things. This is the space that he used as a studio. He used a very large easel, as you can see. And notice the curtain right here, the way it's draped. He did that, we know that, because he wanted to control the amount of light that came in when he was painting a portrait. He wanted only so much light on the face, and that's where he would paint his highlight. So by using the white cloth, he could block some of the sun if there was too much of it coming in. So that's why if you go visit the house, you'll see that curtain that way. Okay, Mr. Fancy Pants Rembrandt. Look at the clothing he's wearing. The gold braid in his cap, the real fur around the collar, the fancy velvet material. I mean, that, he looks like a nobleman. He looks like he could pass for, you know, like a prince with the clothing he's wearing. He was just a painter. And, you know, painters, I mean, he did very well. But normally they didn't end up as rich people. But by the clothing he wore, you would think that he was a rich person. This is what it was like for him at the height of his career. But look at the self-portrait just 20 years later. My, oh my, have his fortunes changed. First of all, the years are really showing on his face. He's looking a little weary, a little worried, and he was having serious money problems. By the time he painted this, his wife had died, his son had died. Very common back then. You know, 400 years ago, they didn't have modern medicine, so people often died too young. He was left, you know, alone. He had lost his house. He had so many bills. He wasn't getting enough work anymore, and I'll tell you why. He had no more money coming in, or very little money coming in. He couldn't afford to pay his bills on his house. He had to sell it, sell all the furniture, all of his collection, all of his books, most of his clothing. He had to sell it all. He ended up in one little room with just a change of clothing, his art supplies, and one book that he was able to keep, and that was his Bible. Everything else had to sell. He had to sell to pay his debts. What happened to him? He went from the height of his career down to this. One reason is because people are fickle. Do you know what that word fickle means? People change their minds easily. We are fickle today. You know, one day we'll like something and we'll think, no, I'm bored with that. I'm going to go over here and do this instead. And that's what happened during Rembrandt's life. He was so much in demand for his paintings, but all of a sudden people said, oh, I've used Rembrandt before. There's a new artist over here. I like his style. It's a little different. I'm going to have my portrait painted by him. So all of a sudden, people weren't using him as much to paint their portraits. And then something happened that really damaged his career, his reputation as an artist. And it happened with this painting. I have to tell you that this is his greatest work, his masterpiece. It is often listed, if you ask art experts once again to list like the top 10 paintings of the world ever done, this painting called Night Watch would be on most people's lists. This is an amazing painting. It's the largest work he ever did. It took him 2 years to finish it. It's so big. When I was in Holland in that visit where I hardly remember his house, I did go to the museum that has this painting. I saw a lot of art that day. This is before I was teaching with the masters. I only knew a little bit about art. This is the only painting I remember. And I remember standing in front of it thinking, oh wow, this is an amazing painting. Let me tell you the story behind it and why it was the beginning of his downfall. These people are actually, they look like soldiers, but they're actually important leaders of the town. The business people, the doctors, the lawyers. They would form together into a social club, but they also served a very important function. They were also really a militia group. They were volunteer soldiers. Militia, whenever you hear that word, that means military. And, 400 years ago, there were a lot of battles and wars, and sometimes you needed to protect a town, defend it, you had to go off and fight. And right at this moment, this militia group that's in their hall, their militia hall, had been called to arms. They're going off to battle. They're going off to defend the town. So this guy is drumming. They're talking. This person is loading gunpowder into his rifle. They're going to unfurl the flag and march with the flag. They're getting their javelin weapons. These are the common weapons 400 years ago. There's the leader and his second in command, the captain and the lieutenant. There is activity. There is action. There is excitement in this painting. When Rembrandt finished this picture, he knew it was the best work he had ever done. He had been hired by these militiamen, and they had to pay him a lot of money because he was doing very well. He had a good reputation, so he could charge more than other artists. They each paid him a lot of money to be in this group portrait. What do you think their reaction was when they saw this? Thumbs up or thumbs down? It was definitely thumbs down. And let me tell you why. Even though we think this is his best work, Rembrandt knew this was his best work because it's so exciting, so dynamic. You feel like they're just ready to go fight and go off to battle. But this is not at all what they wanted. They wanted this. I'm going to show you a painting. It's a good painting. There's nothing wrong with it. It's done by another Dutch artist, but this is what these soldiers wanted. They wanted the typical old, line them up in a straight row, everybody facing forward kind of painting. This is what they wanted. And they were so disappointed when they got this. Because after all, if you had paid a lot of money, would you be very happy if your face was blocked by that arm? Would you be very happy if you were stuck way back here, where you could hardly see yourself, or one of these other